the structure, perspective, and strategy of this commission must be discussed, clarified, acknowledged by both parties. There are enough experiences. Elazar can give us here dozens of experiences that he has in establishing such a committees. It is a way that must be done. What are the problems? The problems of Turkish suggestions are, one, it doesn't create a seriousness for itself. You cannot offer a historian commission one side and say that the state should not involve in this, let the historian discuss, but all your state ministers' web pages full with hatred against Armenians. If you go to the general staff, cultural ministry, education ministry, I mean, the general policy on the one side is based on hatred, based on animosity, and sees it as a problem, and you cannot do both sides. You cannot use both languages. The language is a basic problem. There is a problem of it's not trustworthy enough. So what necessary is, I think, the confidence-building measures that Turkey should make seriously, that it's serious in his suggestions. There are other gestures that Turkey can make to give the Armenian names to the buildings, for example, to bring the Armenian culture back.
Stop destroying Armenian monuments.
You can add a lot of these confidence-building measures. I mean, this must be done. And the other important thing, the Armenian response to this historian commission is also a very legitimate argument. They say that how two states can establish an historian commission and negotiate on a commission when they don't have the diplomatic relations. Can you imagine that Turkey today, if officially want to send a letter, they should send to Tiflis, to Georgian, and Georgians should send them. The Armenian government says, okay, let's establish historian commission, but other commissions also. Let's establish a commission for the diplomatic relations. Let's establish a commission for the other part. But just opposite, Turkish government in Turkey, in the newspapers, they propagate that Armenian vehemently opposed and reject the Turkish proposal. It's not true. If you read the Turkish newspaper, you will say that Turkey offers the historian commission and Armenia resists against that and opposed and declines this proposal. It's not true. Armenia says, I mean, we spoke, both of us, 2005 with the foreign minister because we really want to establish such a commission, and this was their position officially. They repeated a lot. Yes, commission, but please with the other aspect of the issues also, so that both countries have a diplomatic relation with each other, so that we can talk directly on the historian commission, on other commissions also. This is a very important step, and I think it must be followed up. But first of all, we have to change the language in Turkey that we use when we deal with that problem.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Professor Akcam. My question comes from the following premise that forgiveness and reconciliation in such processes are inherently promotional of self-determination. And I think that your account of an Armenian student, Turkish student is accurate because, well, I'm a student and I've been in such a situation. So I think genocide, it begins, one part of genocide is polarization, but it occurs that afterwards polarization remains because identity is exactly what it is not. And so inherently there's polarization, it's misguided. But in this discussion of reconstruction of narrative, what I find to be very important and often overlooked in all cases, not just Turkish-Armenian genocide, this sort of thing, but even during the Holocaust, Bonhoeffer, are dissenters. Dissenters are very important and often undermined because these people, when you talk about someone who dissents an atrocity, you're talking about the good of that society, and you're also talking about the implicit crime itself. So what's of particular interest to me, and I think very important in our sort of civilian dialogue, which would, I think, go up slowly, is accounts of people who dissented the Armenian genocide. Clearly, what we often talk about, and I've heard you speak about, is the generals who dissented. And such accounts of that nature, I think they're very important to talk about. Can you tell us a bit about dissent during the genocide, essentially is the question.
If I understood you correctly, this
Who
is
objected to
Hmm?
Who objected to the genocide in Turkey?
Uh,
Those who objected
Generals,
to
essentially,
genocide.
people in power who objected to following through.
who objected to genocide 1915, for example, is the question. There are not enough studies. We need young scholars for the local studies. It differs from center. There were, for information, around 20 governors or sub-officers who either dismissed from their office or killed because they opposed the killing of the Armenians. 4 in the Diyarbakir region, 2 in different regions, and there were also, these are within the bureaucracy. Within the military, there were certain military personnel, the 3rd Army Commander, Vehip Pasha, Trabzon military officers, Avni Pasha, I have a list of it. There are Turkish army officers who really opposed the Armenian killings. There are pockets of resistance within the military also. And among the Muslim population, there were a huge resistance, but they couldn't do a lot because they didn't have the power. From the military tribunal, we know that, for example, the Muslim population of one city goes to the governor, says that we don't want our Christian brothers deported because it's not written in Quran. The most of resistance in Anatolia, it's very interesting, came mostly from firmly believed Muslim population. And with the argument that it is not written in Quran. This was their major argument. And in German documents, the German counselors reported these all, and when the Lepsius 1919 published, they all removed this part from the original documents. The Muslim population in Anatolia really opposed, and there were pockets of resistance. They saved Armenians. But at the same time, it was the same Muslim population in certain regions killed and attacked the Armenians in name of the Islam. Because if you killed a gavur, infidel, you go to hell. So it was different from region to region, and there were Kurdish tribes. When the deportation convoys approaches to certain Kurdish tribes' territory, they attacked the convoys and killed the Armenians, even though it was not the killing spot. There are reports that the gendarmerie tried to protect the convoys against these Kurdish tribes because the planned killing was somewhere else. And there were also Kurdish tribes who helped the Armenians. Only Dersim, the Tunceli region, the number of Armenians who were rescued by these Kurds in that region, according to American missionaries and diplomats' records in that region, around 30,000. Because of Turkish vehement denial policy, we never really dealt with that aspect of the history. We always, I heard from a lot of Armenian friends after the meetings, and they were coming to me, they are saying, if we survived, one of the important reasons that we survived, because of the help of the Muslims, neighbors, and so on. This part of Turkish history hasn't been worked out enough, and it is a necessity to work on that. We can build our history on this part of the past also.